Today we are going to talk about Kenneth Murray Jr. and other players I think are going to be integral to Oklahoma's defense no matter what Alex Grinch runs in 2019, and all that's coming up after the bumper.
What do you mean you don't subscribe to my son's YouTube channel?
Mama, no!
Just snap the damn ball, RJ.
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always OU related, college football related, sports related. We have a good time, and today we're going to talk about Kenneth Murray Jr. and other players I believe are integral to what Oklahoma is going to run defensively no matter how Alex Grinch chooses to coach his defense. And there's lots of talk about what's going into his scheme, what he's done in the past, and how that looks. And for more information on that, I encourage you to check out the interview I conducted with Washington State head coach Mike Leach, who gave Alex Grinch his first opportunity to be a defensive coordinator and was rewarded with top 30 defenses. And one of the things that was a hallmark of what he did was be multiple with a 3-4 look. His stand-up defensive end, which, we saw Mike Stoops call a jack linebacker, looked more like a rush defensive end, but it's a bit different for Alex Grinch because it is a one-gap scheme, which probably looks more like what Ruffin McNeil was running toward the end of the season last year. And I think that's one reason why that a guy like Ronnie Perkins figures into plans, because just what he brings to the table defensively. He is an enormous, fast pass rusher who also is not a liability against the run. That's really fantastic to see out of a true freshman who led the team in sacks a year ago. Now, it wasn't like Oklahoma was a bunch of sack masters out here, but you're taking what you can get. And with Ronnie Perkins on one side and Kenneth Mann on the other, Oklahoma looked pretty good when you're talking about the defensive line when they were rushing well. I think Ronnie Perkins is a dude that could play in a 5 technique, he could play in a 7. If you wanted to blow him up and move into a 3 technique, kind of like they did Quinnen Williams at Alabama, I could also see that. But I really think that he's tailor-made for this rush-in position, provided that's something that Alex Grinch wants to do. And what we saw out of that guy was the kind of season that we hoped to have seen out of all the All-American Bowl participants in 2018. But true freshmen are true freshmen. Nobody is Trevor Lawrence except Trevor Lawrence, and I feel like I'm going to say that over and over again as we continue to get toward the start of the 2019 season. I also could see Ronnie Perkins getting his hand on the ground more often than not, which I am a fan of because I like 4-down fronts and I like them to have their hands on the ground, and I like them to be one-gap players. I think it makes it easier on them. I think it makes it easier to simplify the defense, and I think, when the guys know what they're doing and they don't have to think about it, as Mike Leach said in the video, you could just pull the trigger. Now, another guy that I think is going to figure into the defense no matter what you run is Kenneth Murray Jr. And I know folks don't really like Kenneth Murray Jr. on the channel. I know some of y'all are take him and leave him, and you look at the number of tackles he has and are like, yeah, but where is he when we're talking about tackles for loss? Look, his job is to tackle people. And when you put together 155 tackles in a season, it's very difficult for me to say that you're not great at playing defense, let alone middle linebacker. His job is to make tackles. He made a ton of them. He made the 8th most tackles in a season by a football player at the University of Oklahoma ever. Think about the folks who played linebacker at Oklahoma. Rocky Calmus, Teddy Lehman, Jackie Shipp, the Boz. And then you find out that he had the most tackles in a season since Curtis Lofton put together 157. Incidentally, Curtis Lofton is one of those dudes that I think was throwing shade at the defense over the Alabama game and really all year because it wasn't very good. But I think if you're going to build a defense, you're going to have to build it around Kenneth Murray Jr. because he's not only one of your better players, he's becoming one of your more experienced players when you're talking about games started and games played. And he is a 6'2", 240-pound dude running around destroying whomever he may devour. He is a superhero playing middle linebacker. K9 is that dude. I think Gus Johnson was onto something when he called him Power Man, because Kenneth Murray Jr. looks and plays a lot like Luke Cage, and I think like a guy like Alex Grinch is going to be able to get a lot out of him, especially since his defense is predicated on creating turnovers and flying to the football. Two things that Kenneth Murray Jr. can do. Was he great at creating turnovers? Not really, but he can learn to do that. What you cannot teach is what he was great at. Flying to the football, making tackles. So if you want to call him a chase tackler, fine, because that's what you do in football. You chase people and you tackle them. And when they're running side to side, you have to run side to side. It's not like you get to shoot the gap every single time unless you're playing a one-gap scheme. And we're going to get to see more of that. And I think a lot of this is going to have to depend on not the back end so much as I understand that Alex Grinch has a background in the secondary, particularly in the safeties. But what we know and what we've seen in college football is if you can create pressure with your 4 rushers, your 4 pass rushers, your 4 down linemen, your beef up front, you're going to win more football games than you lose. That is the thing to take away from this entire season, from Alabama to Clemson to Notre Dame to Oklahoma to Texas. If your 4 can get pressure against their 5, you're going to be very, very good at football. The thing that folks missed about Tua Tagovailoa's performance wasn't the picks or him misreading coverages. It was that he was running for his life, which is what Kyler Murray was doing against Alabama. And quarterbacks that are running for their lives usually ain't pretty good at playing the position of quarterback, because there's a big difference from being able to run away from folks and folks coming after your kidneys. And when you got 4 dudes that can come after kidneys and you can drop 7 into coverage, you're going to win a lot more games than you lose. And that's another reason why I think the next guy who is integral to what Alex Grinch is going to do is Brennan Bookie Radley Hiles. I say that not because I expect Bookie to start or move to corner or stay at safety. I think it's because you're going to be able to see what the defense is doing based on where you see that guy, if you see that guy, how you see that guy. We saw them take him off the field after the West Virginia game because they wanted to go from a 5 defensive back look to a 4 linebacker look because he was becoming a liability in places where you can't have a liability. I'm not saying necessarily that Bookie is going to be the guy to turn the tide in the secondary. I am saying that you're going to see a heavy influence on what the defense is predicated on doing based on when or how you see that guy playing on the field, because we know that he's a good cover corner. We saw that coming out of high school. We didn't get to see him play any cover corner when he got to Oklahoma. If he makes the transition back, I think it'll be good for him. I think it'll be good for the secondary. I think another guy to watch is Justin Broyles, because he actually looked pretty good playing some free safety, some strong safety. And that's another guy who came in playing corner, right? You also get to see a lot more maturity out of a guy like Delarian Turner-Yell. And I get that everybody wants to know that Neville Gallimore is going to be that dude on the front. I understand that. And yeah, he is the best and most talented defensive lineman Oklahoma has. And he'll ostensibly get help from Michael Thompson, who's going to join in. You get true freshman Derek Green. We'll see what he adds. But you got defensive tackles. And you got defensive ends. And Marcus Stripling is going to help. And Marcus Hicks is going to help. And Joseph Wette at linebacker, that rush in, is going to help. But Neville Gallimore, Kenneth Murray Jr., what they decide to do with Brennan Bookie Radley Hiles are going to tell you a lot about what to expect from this defense in 2019. I know some folks are looking for a double-digit jump from 108 in total defense to the top 50. We'll see. That's a big leap. But if they get inside the top 50, they get inside the top 30, expect Oklahoma to compete for a college football playoff spot again in a conference that is going to be loaded with them and Texas. That's about it. So loaded is the wrong term there. But you understand what I'm getting at. Oklahoma and Texas, I think, are the two for which everybody's going to bet their house on to win the Big 12. So if you saw somebody like Baylor or Oklahoma State or Kansas State, who I think is a sexy pick with Kleiman as the head coach, jump up and bite you, that's in the cards. But Oklahoma and Texas is where it's at, particularly because Texas coming off a Sugar Bowl win against a good Georgia team, and Harji Ellinger is returning as the quarterback. You get Colin Johnson back even when you lose L.J. Humphrey, and you know what you got in Keontae Ingram, and you're going to get a good defense from Todd Orlando because he's demonstrated he can put that together. However, getting back to the subject of this video, I'm really going to tell you to pay attention to what Kenneth Murray Jr. is doing, pay attention to Neville Gallimore is doing, and pay attention to what they do, if anything, with Brennan Bookie Radley Hiles. All right, that's it for me. Deuces.